We'll restart the presentation. As I said before, my name's Duncan Mitchell. I'm the Director of Engineering and Property Services. And with me tonight, I have Nathan Wu, who is the Project Manager for this project. Nathan's a traffic engineer, and he's been tasked with engaging consultants, but also overseeing the project management of this project to date. So just some background, this project had its roots in the original consultation we did through our LATM consultation, that's Local Area Traffic Management Plans consultation that we undertook back in 2016. And then also subsequent to that, we've had quite a bit of consultation with Mosman Council, because half of this project, if you like, is also on the Mosman Council side of the road. And we've undertaken quite a bit of talking with Mosman Council about it. From a delivery perspective, though, in terms of the design, the consultation, the running of the project, and also the funding of the project, North Sydney Council will be taking the lead in all of that. So that's why we're doing the presentation here tonight. We've spent considerable time and effort at this stage preparing these options and these designs. And what I'll do is just the main objective of this project overall, so forgetting the options and forgetting the designs that we're going to give you tonight, the overall objective of this project is to improve safety. And we're talking about safety of all road users. So that's vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, all road users. So that is the key objective tonight. Whether you agree or you have an opinion about the options we're going to show you, all of them have been designed to consider and to improve safety. There is quite a history here of crashes and accidents at the intersections, which I'll talk to you about. So that's why this project is going ahead, or why we're undertaking this project. So please remember that that is the key objective, really, is to improve safety for everyone in this area. And really, because of the number and the history of crashes and incidences here that we know of, it'd be remiss of us not to at least try to attempt to address that issue. And that's what tonight, and that's what this consultation is all about. So I'm now going to go through each of the locations, and there's obviously 3 locations here. There's a number of options for each location that we're going out on, or we are out on public exhibition on. And so the first location that I'm going to talk to you about tonight is Spofforth Street and Holt Avenue. And as I mentioned to you, there is a history of crashes at this intersection and accidents. Due to the poor sight distance and the dominant north-south traffic flow, which I think everyone knows gets quite busy, particularly at peak times, and the staggered alignment also creates some issues in terms of safety. So the first option that we're considering for Holt Avenue in the concepts is a roundabout. And whether you agree with roundabouts or not, roundabouts are one of the most effective ways to control traffic flow outside of signalised intersections. They're also one of the best solutions in terms of improving safety of an intersection, because they control and they slow that traffic flow. Now, this particular roundabout option also improves the pedestrian crossing points between the intersections on all 4 sides. One of the, downsides of this option is there is a loss of parking, and those red cars that you can see on the diagram there is the foreshadowed loss of parking, approximately 5 spaces. The next, and that's an artist impression that shows you what the roundabout would look like in terms of the landscaping, in terms of the traffic treatments and the road narrowing through the blisters that are landscaped, as you can see there, and the improvements to that intersection through the introduction of a roundabout. This is the next option here at this intersection, and really it's just curb build-outs. At this stage, curb build-outs, what they do in terms of safety is that they narrow the road neck, which is an effective speed deterrent in terms of cars and vehicles, but it also shortens the distance that pedestrians have to cross. So, you know, we're talking about reducing the pedestrian crossing distance here by at least 3 to 4 metres, which is a considerable amount of ground to cover if you're an elderly person or a young person and you're trying to cross this intersection. The distance you have to cross is significantly reduced. We're also including, these are raised thresholds, so the raised threshold acts as a speed deterrent because cars have to stop to go up the slightly raised threshold. We're also talking about some different landscaping and traffic treatments here to slow traffic down. The benefit of this design is there's no loss of parking. And that just shows you again what this design would look like as an artist's impression and a three-dimensional version of what this design would look like. And this is the last option, and I won't pass any judgment on the options, but this is really the simple option of just providing, again, a raised threshold, and also some curb blisters to narrow the crossing points. But the pedestrian crossings are simply refuge islands as well. If you look at crossing Spofforth Street there, we're showing just simply 2 pedestrian refuge islands, which are not ideal, but they still do their job in terms of providing a refuge, but they're just not what I'd call the most ideal pedestrian crossing device that you can have in your armoury of pedestrian crossing devices. The downside of this particular option as well is that there is loss of parking on both sides of Spofforth Street there. And that's what that particular design would look like as an artist's impression. So now I'm going to talk to you, and this I won't go into detail, but this gives you a breakdown of the different aspects of each of those options in terms of parking loss, performance of the pedestrian safety and cycling and car safety initiatives that each of those options actually provides. That's just a table summary of all of what I've spoken to you about. Location 2. Now, this is Spofforth Street and Rangers Road. Generally, as you know, this is a very busy intersection. It's a very difficult intersection to navigate if you're a pedestrian, particularly if you're trying to navigate this section here where there's a lot of northbound, southbound traffic. And also we've got complaints or people have contacted us that there's excessive speed at this intersection, which I think everyone does know is a well-used rat run between North Sydney and Mosman if you don't want to chug along Military Road. So again, we have a number of options here that we're presenting to you on how this intersection can be treated. First option is, again, the roundabout option, and I explained earlier the benefit of a roundabout option is simply they are the best management traffic devices of speed, but also traffic flow. In this particular design, we're showing some pedestrian treatments via some curb blisters, which again reduces the travel distance for pedestrians who wish to cross this intersection, and that just shows you there the curb blisters. It also shows you, though, that there is a significant amount of parking loss at this stage, but the parking loss is the parallel parking, the red cars. What we're proposing to offset this loss is angled parking, and that's the green cars that you can see there. So we can actually increase the amount of parking overall by going to angled parking, which gives you, I think, a net gain, is that correct, Nathan, of parking loss, or works out as an equal number of lost?
A net gain of 3.
A net gain of 3 parking spaces in this design. And that's what it looks like in terms of an artist's impression of how that would work. And also it shows you how that road width neck narrows at the intersection. This is the next option. Again, this shows you a signalisation option. an expensive option, but again, as I said, the most effective way, and I think we all understand this, it might not be the most convenient way, but the most effective way at any intersection to manage traffic flow, pedestrian safety, all road user safety is unfortunately traffic signals. There's nothing else works better. As inconvenient as everyone knows it is and says, oh, signals are really a very over-the-top response. We're proposing it here because it does address this issue of speeding and safety of road users. It's an expensive option. It's a very complicated option, but if you want the penultimate option, traffic signals is the way to go. Unfortunately, again, there is parking loss, but we've mitigated that parking loss with of 10 spaces with angled parking. And if we go with the angled parking solution, we end up with a net gain of 3 parking spaces. And that's just an artist's impression of that. Now, I'll also talk about the next one, but a lot of, and Nathan can correct me if I'm wrong, we're able to do this by relocating the bus stops. And I understand that the bus stops have been placed in the area, in their locations for many years, but to achieve these outcomes, it will require a relocation of the bus stops. And there's a final slide at the end of this presentation that shows you that what we're proposing to do is consolidate the bus stops into a more central location, if you like. And I understand there'll be a lot of people in the community who might think you can't touch the bus stops, but look, we're just going out there to consult on this. Nothing's set in stone. So back to concept B for location 2. That's the artist's impression of that. And finally, the third option of this is the road realignment with a pedestrian signal crossing on Rangers Road. So that just shows you there what that configuration would look like. The pedestrian crossing, signal crossing on Rangers Road. Again, there is a loss of parking, but again, there's a net gain of parking if we go to angled parking. And that shows you with those signals what the crossing would look like, what the landscaping would look like as well. And that is the summary of location 2. I guess the pros and cons of of location 2 and all of the options A, B, and C. And now finally, I'll go to last location, location 3, which is Spofforth Street and Florence Street. As you can see there, it's currently just a pedestrian refuge in the middle of the road. Not the most ideal solution, but that's what currently exists. Now, we've only got one, because this is a little bit simpler than the other intersections, we've only got one option for this, and that's just showing you that we're looking at narrowing the road to provide, again, that closer crossing distance. There is some new parking introduced, but really this option's all about trying to make that pedestrian crossing distance less than what currently exists. And we would be putting a pedestrian refuge back, but it'd be one that's built to current standards, i.e. a much larger pedestrian refuge that would provide much better protection for pedestrians. And that's the pros and cons of that particular treatment at location 3. Now, as I mentioned to you before, a lot of this is contingent upon us being able to relocate the existing bus stops. And if you can see on this diagram here, the bus stops with the little red crosses through them, they're the existing bus stops. So there's 4 existing bus stops, 2 up at Spofforth Street, which are located near to the shops, 1 down near the Florence Lane Spofforth Street intersection, and 1 on Florence Street itself. And we have talked to the STA about this, and they have given in principle agreement, but I think it's all going to depend on the outcomes of the consultation. And that is that we rationalise those 4 bus stops into 2 bus stops not quite in the middle, but as close to the middle of where the existing ones are on Spofforth Street. So that diagram shows you those big red dots with B in the middle of them are the proposed new bus stops. So as I said earlier, we're currently up to consultation on this. If you go to the North Sydney Council's Have Your Say website, you can download all the information about this. And also just please be aware that survey submissions close on the 11th of April. So you please put your submissions in, and then we'll consider this after we've received and assessed the submissions on the 11th of June at the Traffic Committee, all going well, the 11th of June Traffic Committee. So questions, what I'll do now, because I've been talking flat out for 25 minutes, I'm going to hand over to Nathan, and he's going to quickly just go through the questions that we've received online, and then we'll go to some of the forum questions that have been coming through as I've been speaking. So I'll hand over to Nathan Wu, our traffic engineer.
Good evening, everyone. I have received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions so far.
Might have to speak up a bit, Nathan.
The first question I've been asked is, the question is, we are interested in the Spofforth Street and Holt Avenue intersection, and asking how visibility will be provided for drivers with the treatments. So, can I just use the dongle? I would show you, probably it's better if I show the slide. Yep. So with the option 1, the roundabout, it will definitely address all the site distance issues and reduce the likelihood of cross traffic crashes. And with option 2, the curb build outs, it will actually bring the driver sideline forward, as you can see, because as the stop line has been extended and it's more onto Spofforth Street, and with the addition of the cycleway, the bicycle lane, it actually provides an extra buffer and extra clearance to see the vehicle travelling on Spofforth Street. And also with the narrowing of the road, the carriageway on Spofforth Street, it will also slow down the traffic. And with the similarly with the refuge islands, it has, as part of the refuge islands, there is a minimum mandatory no stopping zones on approach to the pedestrian refuge, and in terms that improve the sightlines for drivers exiting Holt Avenue. So that's the answer for question 1. And question 2 is people asking whether Cabramatta intersection at Cabramatta Road and Spofforth Street has been considered. In fact, that this intersection has been included in Council's local area traffic management action plan that Duncan mentioned earlier. And the proposal for the intersection is to redesign the intersection and to improve pedestrian safety and intersection operation. And it's currently ranked as a medium priority amongst other 227 projects on the list for that zone. And I'll move to the third question. Will the speed of traffic be addressed along Spofforth Street as well? And this is an overall general issue which will impact the effectiveness of the suggested improvements. Yes, we will. All the proposals will have effect on traffic calming. For example, in all proposals, the travel lanes will be narrowed to 3 meters. And with the proposed provision of the on-road cycleway, this will require drivers to travel at a slower speed. The fourth question, has an effect on the northbound route run running traffic in the afternoon peak being considered. It will appear that making it easier to go up Spofforth Street at Ranges Road intersection will encourage more people to turn off Murdoch Street at Florence Street. The answer to that is, I will not say the proposal will make drivers going up Spofforth Street easier. All the proposals, like Darshan mentions, are intended to make it safer for both motorists and pedestrians. So, for example, with the roundabout option, the motorists may still have to wait at the intersection to enter the intersection from the southern leg of the Spofforth Street. And with the other two options of the traffic signal and the intersection realignment, the traffic flow is still prioritized for the northwest traffic flow. So I'll say that, so the effect on the northbound route run, I would say that will be minimal. The last question is relating to whether there is consideration for no right turn signals from Ranges Road east into Spofforth Street south. I think that questions might be asking whether the traffic signal will incorporate a red arrow when for the right turning vehicles. If the option of the signalization is adopted, we will investigate this as part of the detailed traffic signal design and subject to the Transport for New South Wales approval.
Okay, so is that, Nathan, that's the end of the questions that we received before the forum. We're now going to, and I understand we might have run out of time on this, so a lot of the forum questions that have come in, we've got those and we will respond to them in due course after tonight's information session, because we are getting a lot of questions coming in through the forum. And what I'll do is I'll try and answer the ones that I can, but then I'll hand over to Nathan to answer the ones that I can't, and we'll try and get as many of these forum questions done as possible. So I'll start off. The first question we've got is Ranges and Spofforth. Does landscaping include possible outdoor cafe seating? Now, the answer to that is really, it's probably wide enough to do that, but the outdoor cafe seating is really depends on an operator to come and operate outdoor cafe seating. Council doesn't supply it. Council would entertain the notion that there is an opportunity for cafe outdoor seating, and then an operator, a cafe or restaurant operator, would have to approach council to then use that space for that activity. So I think that's the answer to that question.
Can I point out? Actually, I think that's more related to the space outside of shops, but they're actually on the Mosman. On the Mosman side, so it's really up to the Mosman Council. And actually, we during my conversation with Mosman, we did recommend whether they would provide some actual outdoor dining or
But there is opportunities to do that. Our original intention was to actually do a full master plan for this area that included a lot of public domain works, not just what you're seeing tonight, which is traffic calming and traffic facility works. I'll hand the next question, Nathan, if you just want to read out the next question and then answer it, that would be great.
Okay, location 1, has the speed of traffic entering Holt Avenue from the Ranges direction being factored in? Cars don't slow down in the incline, makes drivers accelerate alarmingly. I don't quite understand the question because the Ranges Road doesn't really intersect with the Holt Avenue. I guess that's talking about the northbound traffic going up Spofforth Street.
Okay, well, we'll confirm that question and take it on notice and get back to you. Maybe if you want to go to the next question.
Yeah.
We've only got 5 minutes left, so we'll have to race through it.
Location 2, are you aware the issue of motorists turning into petrol station northbound in Spofforth Street after turning from Ranges Road? Also, pedestrians dart across here in a very dangerous manner from parked cars. I think the petrol station, that's a little bit on the edge of the scope of this study, of the intersection. But definitely when we progress into the detailed design stage, we will look at more issues in general. So all these actual concerns and issues or feedback received from the committee consultation will all be taken into considerations at the detailed design stage. And the next question is, what about Spencer Street? Name problem there, pedestrian safety. From memory, I think Spencer Street at the intersection of Spofforth Street is also has also been included in Council's local area traffic management plan action plan for intersection upgrade, but it's not as part of this study. And does option 3 at Spofforth Street and Ranges Road have 1 or 2 lanes northbound in Ranges Road? So let's go back to the slide.
Yeah, you can go back to the slide.
Spofforth Street. Yeah, with that option, you will have only 1 travel lane for the westbound direction. So it'll be a through and right turn combined travel lane, as you can see on the slide. And this will be controlled by the so it depends on whether the optional pedestrian signalised pedestrian will be adopted. So if it is, then you will control by the traffic signal. Otherwise, you will be just the vehicle will just continue travelling northbound and with the cars turning right. Okay. The last question, option 3. Does option 3 as Spofforth range? Oh, sorry, I'm just saying.
I'll answer this one, Nathan, while you look at. We'll answer, folks. I'm sorry because we're running out of time. But we'll answer 2 more questions after this one. So if you want to have a look at those 2 that just come in. With the loss of parking, have you examined the 225 bus timetable? Is it possible to allow parking during non-operational hours? That's a good question, and that's certainly something we can look into. We have been talking to the SDA closely about the bus timetables and how this rationalisation would affect it. But look, thank you for that question. That's certainly something that we will raise with the SDA and look at. Is it possible during non-operational hours to use those areas for parking? So I'll hand over to Nathan. These are the last 2 questions that we'll try and provide answers to. They're quite long and complicated, but you better hurry through them.
Okay, Spofforth Street using Holt Avenue is mostly cars crossing east to west. Mosman Council has a number of speed deterrents already in place. Is anything planned for Holt Avenue to spot the cars shooting up Little Road? Like I said, this project is only focused on these particular 3 intersections and in terms of intersection operation and pedestrian and traffic safety. So additional speeding concerns and that they will be investigated further as part of the council's ongoing local area traffic management plan action plan.
I might just add with traffic. And anything you touch with traffic, as you know, I know everyone's pointing out, well, if you touch this and you do this, what happens over here at this other intersection or this other part of the suburb? And look, we do understand that. We do understand, our traffic engineers understand wholeheartedly that when you touch something somewhere there's going to be knock-on effects and implications somewhere else. But the issue for us is that we can't address all of those other intersections and all of those other areas are going to be impacted in one go. We just don't have the resources and money to do that. So we know full well that if we proceed with something like what we're proposing to you tonight, changes at 3 intersections, we are going to have to look at, in the future, the other areas that are going to be impacted. But we can't, I don't think it's realistic to have the expectation that if we do this, then council can then quickly address all the other areas that are going to be affected. It does take time, and things sometimes change in ways that you don't predict, and you end up having to address those as a priority first. So please understand, we do have a holistic approach to traffic and parking, and we do understand there are knock-on effects at other intersections, but we can't address it all in one go. I'll hand over. This is our last question tonight, folks.
Okay, the last question, Ranges Road. Ranges Road has the traffic during Redlands drop-off and pick-up being considered. The traffic at the intersection of Murdoch Street and into Ranges Road is a gridlock, morning and afternoon. Can Redlands agree to stagger the drop-off times to reduce impacts on traffic movements to other motorists and reduce congestion overall on Ranges Road and Spofforth Street? I think the school council has been working closely with the school in terms of the traffic management during school pickup and drop-off times. I think the school has put in place a timetable where we staggered finishing time for the junior schools and the junior school and the preschools and the high school. But we are, I think there is an item that's coming up to the next traffic committee. It's about the traffic management for the Ranges Road and for the Ranges Road pick up and drop off for the Redlands School. So, and this will be, like I said, council will continue to look into these other issues and working closely with the school principals and staff to improve the traffic in this area.
Yeah, look, we are well aware, and we've had a lot of inquiries, I won't say complaints, but inquiries about Redlands and how pick-up and drop-off is managed. Council has had quite lengthy conversations with them about this and how to better manage it. I also think most people would understand that they are considering a major redevelopment as well. And we've asked them in that redevelopment to consider this issue carefully so that they can try and mitigate the issues that we have at the moment. They will provide, I just saw a question pop up on the screen and I don't have it in writing, but they will provide us with a traffic management plan as part of that redevelopment. So just be patient. That will happen, but they've got to finalise their redevelopment plans first, which they haven't done. So it'd be premature to ask them for the traffic management plan at this stage because they haven't finalised what they're going to do. So look, I'd like to wrap up, and I'd like to firstly thank Nathan for his input and also for managing this project. I think everyone understands it is a complicated project. It will be a project that has a long way to go. We're doing just the first stages of consultation now. We expect to hear a lot from people about this, but I do encourage you to put in a submission. I do encourage you to encourage others to put in a submission so that we can understand the full extent of what people think about this project. As I said, North Sydney Council is leading it. It will be coming to the April Traffic Committee meeting to put a recommendation up as to what options have got the most favour from the community and progressing the project from that point forward. In terms of funding, Nathan, I believe we have money in this year's budget to do the design work. So this financial year, we'll be doing the design and trying to reach a design that is to everyone's satisfaction. And then next financial year, all going well, and hopefully we have a design that everyone agrees on, next financial year, we would like to start implementation. So also thank you to everyone who's come along tonight. Thank you for your questions. We'll get back to you on those questions, but we really appreciate your attendance here at tonight's Council's information session. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.